Okay, this was something that I was just looking at. Apparently, Pearl Davis was interviewed by Trigonometry. And they were trying to shake her down for some kind of disavowal of Nick Fuentes, because apparently that's a big thing to do. What now has kind of gotten to me is bit. I usually get like somebody's going over some article, on the right and this and that, and so I'll get, and the thing is, I like when people show the article. This is why I don't do as many videos as I really should do, is because I don't have the screen share set up and stuff like that. One of these days, when it's really old-fashioned, I'll be doing that. Until then, I'll have this really, really nice camera. And so the thing that I will do is I'll look through what this person's writing, and what's going on in the background with this article. So I started to see this more and more and more. And the more time goes on, the worse it gets. The reference to the alt-right, that this people will just throw that as a reference. It's all right, da 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 da. Because these people forgot the like NRX, that kind of thing, the reactionaries and stuff like that. They didn't even know that existed. They just caught a hint of this thing that was known as the alternative right. But I guarantee you, 99% of these so-called journalists could not actually give any kind of real, like, this is where this came from. Because they weren't there. And so when I see people criticizing Nick Fuentes as if he's this just horribly dangerous person, I remember the 80s, people from the right, and then, you could still find lots of footage of, what's his face, was it Rockwell's dad, Lou Rockwell's dad, and stuff. And how it took so long for Rockwell to even not be smeared because of his father. Now, also, I would have to determine what Rockwell stood for when and what he said in the past, because there was stuff that, I was just too young to know what Lou Rockwell was doing. But when you had followed this stuff for a long time, you realize this is not an issue of there just being armies of, Nick Fuentes is in command of some great horde of men that, they're just waiting there with their rosaries, like Templaring out, practicing with swords and at the range, and it's some Catholic army. That's not what's happening. It's just there's not bunkers like the nut jobs back in the day. That it appears the more people look into stuff like that, these various hate groups, that while there would be some kind of wealthy sponsors of some sort, that these would be things that it turns out the government be well aware of, that there's a lot of evidence, there's sort of that if something shady is going on, there's some glowy around who's kind of helping run it. and this is happening more and more. That's why I think this recent thing with the poltroons, eunuchs, and geldings, I think that this is really just something that is being ginned up by Glowies and international spookies and non-profiteers all working together to just kind of make things insane. And I think it has a lot to do with sinking currencies, buying up assets on the cheap, and then coming back, having like tremendous amount of command over society by various glowy and spooky type of people. And this is something that the right discusses a lot. So Nick is one of these people that this idea, he was the compromise in a way. The universe ended up kind of when the alternative right hit what was the standard Republican at the time, even Tea Party member, it was like oil and water. It was boom. I mean, it just, this shattered the New Republic. New Republic Online got crushed alive. There's like 2 or 3 major publications that they had gone online. They were conservative publications online. They just were just devastated. They nobody even, I can't think of them anymore because they were so devastated by fundamentally their way that they turned on and started, this is what these people and their ideas. Now the problem is where did it come from? It was the blog of the National Policy Institute. This was mostly aggregated. It was, Richard Spencer wrote his things, but he would put other people's blog posts. Other people would submit things. And then I think he himself would then also repost stuff other people had written. In many cases, to direct eyes toward the National Policy Institute. Because that's the whole game with institutes, is that first you publish people kind of like for free, and then you get them speaking, and you become an outlet for their books, and it's that you're always taking a little profit, a marginal profit off of it, and so that's great about institutes, So it's how scholars and think people can get paid. The intellectuals. So, now it didn't work out in the long run because of what really happened on the right. The ideas got discussed. And the people who were Catholics there was just too much of it. They're like, this is, no. You see this and this that you just said? Okay, we Catholics don't think that. This always happened with white supremacist movements and stuff like that. That's why they died. That's why in the 90s they just fucking died. Because there were too many people who they were trying to count on reactionary, fascist, Catholic, this and that. And it wasn't, there's too many Catholics that they were just like, no. According to our theology, and they were correct. They were correct. That's why it didn't work. This was attempted before. And it's just a societal thing. It's just like people who are frustrated and concentrated, especially on the existential racial identity and this and that. I get it, and I mean black people do this too. It's just that white liberals do not want to act like these organizations exist in Black America. They do, or they have just no concept that they could. You should maybe know what they are, like Moore Science Temple. This isn't a group that's going to genocide anyone. Do probably most of the members think that you should date and marry within the black community? Yes. And the maybe not so much hoteps. I don't know if that's one of their views. But like Kemet, the Kemet movement. These are definitely people who they want black people. that's the point, and so that's one of those things. It's like they would that's ideal for them, they would do, yeah. But white liberals can't they not only do they really just not know these groups exist, they would themselves just talk it completely out of turn and say, well, they're probably really extreme, or extreme groups like that. And for you to then point out, like, these are the groups that, when you say hip-hop, these are the cultural groups that they're based on. Like, these are the people who still put on shows. These people show up, for the community center dance battle thing. These are the people who volunteer. These are the people who are cooking food out in the thing. Okay, yeah, you don't get this. And it makes sense because you live where you live. These people will live where they live. So there's a lot of people that they're these cosmopolitan types that are acting so shocked by Fuentes. Where somebody like me, I'm like, these are not strange views. If you're raised in diversity, you heard this from people who are not white. I don't get and so then it has become this thing of, I am shocked as well. I'm shocked as well that she didn't just turn and slap him. Just slap him silly. How could you say that to my homegirl, And it was, the thing is, it's one of these things like, holy shit, I've heard this kind of shit talking before. Like, they're Italian. He's from Chicago. She's like from New York or something. Do you not understand? That's what's happening here is not... If these people were fighting, they would be fighting. This is how people are on that side of the country. On the West Coast, this would be very uncomfortable, very like, we should all maybe take a break and have like a bubbly or something, People would be very uncomfortable with that, but on the East Coast, that's not as thing as a Peugeot, yeah. It was like, oh god damn, dude, like it was just perfect. It was perfect. That was fucking funny. That was, and it's also everybody's so like absolutely made of glass and thin-skinned. Article came up last week, or men made of clay. I think it's what it's called. I'd have to look it up again. It was on Revolver. When people once thought they were made of glass. And what it was they had found, this definitely went back to an earlier time where people would suddenly be struck with, I am made of clay. If these things happen to my physical body, I will shatter like a pot. Or various ways of damaging clay. Other people, when glass became normal, people would suddenly, there would be these people who, and they absolutely were certain they would shatter. You had to handle them very carefully and stuff. It hit the elite society. This wasn't poor people. This was elite educated people. So this guy was just pointing out, like, no, and Dutton has gotten into this, that there's that once you start getting high intelligence, you do also get the chance that something could go kind of grossly wrong with the intellect, and that with somebody poor, it would usually just manifest in them having bad health, like they don't wash anymore, or they drink too much, or they start doing something that we would just associate with compulsion, compulsive, not so great behavior or something like that, smoking cigarettes more, that self-medication, like rather than them saying exercising, we just simply don't have this crisis of, oh, people are going mad and exercising too much. So you start to see these things that they're cognitive in nature, but they're degenerative in the behavior they cause. That this somehow ends up with the person having absolutely, they have a worse quality of life. This can't be. You're looking from afar and you're like, something is quite wrong. Your life can't have been improved by this. And so I'm thinking that this is something in that field, and I just have to learn more about this, because this is something like that is seen with the intelligent perverts. That there's this thing of people becoming sexually perverted, that you find that smarter people tend to be sexually perverted. And or if you're finding perverts, that they overlap with the higher intelligence people in society. A variety of things like this. You know, and the poor have their own, you know, clusters of various things. So this was just something I just started to, because of the tendency of us seeing now this class of people that really come from really the majority population middle class, and even educated class, increasingly educated class, similar to how with the Palestinians and the study on their jihadis, they were coming out of the educated and middle classes. They weren't poor people. They were educated people. You had to talk them into it. Like you had to glow in the dark so that they could read all the sacred writings of why, and then write out what they were going to do under the light of the glow. The Glowies. Pearl having to do this weird, like go through the sign language from everyone, it's kind of interesting to me. It just is interesting to me that it's like that really, that, because one of the things I'm sitting back, so, okay, the thing with the alternative right was that a lot of this also was being written by people who were not white, because they were really starting to wonder what was going to happen to their culture that they brought elsewhere. Will the best part survive? Will what's important survive? Because they knew that they were seeing that there wasn't much way it could, because America wasn't keeping its traditional culture, so that that could be identified. Oh yeah, many Americans do that. There's these other Americans who do that. There's these other Americans who do that. It doesn't just become a bunch of sort of stores in a mall. You know, I'm going to try a little Somalian. I'll try a little Mexican. I'll try a little German. I'll try a little Irish. You know, that in some way, shape, or form, that there's clusters of people and that their transposed culture also kind of not evolves, but changes with time. You know, adapts to this land. You know, and that it's understood as such, that it could be openly said as such. Like, that's one of the key things about what's happening with kind of this systematic canceling of white people, especially by liberal white women who are just poorly cultured, that they aren't realizing, like, when you're discussing rock and roll, one of the things you're discussing is quite specifically the Scots-Irish, not these later Irish people who show up, but these people who came from Scotland and were the poor of Scotland who ended up over here, and they are known for NASCAR, but they're also known for rock and roll. These characters show up in movie and TV show after movie and TV show, and they're always kind of the misbehaving white people. So their mannerisms are the kind of wild, the wise cracker says something funny, the grinner, the lover, and the sinner, that kind of character. So knowing what Nick Fuentes, why he says what he says, you're just getting now just this little taste of what's left over from what was a world of writing, mostly. Most of what alt-right was writing. You had to read it all. You had to sit there and read it. These people weren't making a lot of podcasts. There was some video stuff, but they would be known from their writing. That's the thing that and that's why nobody really quotes any of this early work. Nobody talks about Kersey or Nowicki, Forney. Nobody talks about them. Nobody really wants to talk about how the ROK, alt-right, the way they kind of ended up weaving together in a sense, and issues that men were concerned with, that they were like, no, but I want to have kids. And so after a while, they didn't have, they were interested in stuff people in the alt-right said, but it wasn't really their bag anymore. They had something to worry about now. They had a legacy to worry about. They had to do real things. So that's where you start seeing more and more people go into, like, what you should do to invest in the future. And that's a whole end. Like, I mean, Pozo, Walsh, all of them, they never had anything to do with the alt-right, but their followers are probably quite familiar with a number of the writers. Or they had seen some of that stuff pop up, in their feeds here and there back in the day. No, oh yeah, see how that works for you. Because they're practical men. They are solidly, though, not liberals. They know they're not. They know that they disagree with these certain fundamental concepts. That's what ended up happening. There was so much good writing, so many great models for people to heuristics and such, that the right ended up being able to very easily determine, this is why you don't agree with the liberals. You don't agree with them because of these things that here's quotes, here's some of their great works, here's this speech, such and such and such. God dang it, of course. How? Oh well. I should be glad that's happening. Thank you, Garbage Man. You are what makes progress keep going. Give me a second. Okay. So it's just when I see people like, oh, how could, and what Fuentes said about, and it's just one of these things of, you guys have no idea how all of the stuff, like with white supremacy, white nationalism, this all was shattered. And it was shattered, and by the end of the shattering of all of it, by the end of where now nobody takes any of those ideas exactly really that seriously, what happens? Richard Spencer's recorded in a phone call with Nick Fuentes, where Richard Spencer is fuming and cursing. He's furious at Fuentes. He's threatening him. And Nick is just like, Richard, now why are you, don't say that, Richard. It's such masterful internet, like, just scrumptious drama, trolling. People who didn't see how Spencer's career ended up, the whole thing started to come apart at the seams. Like, they really don't know how bad this came apart at the seams. So there's this sort of like this idea that the alt-right's out there. And it's like, no, they've all gone in their various directions. And one of the things that I know nobody ever discusses on the left of center is that Richard Spencer was absolutely a Biden-Kamala supporter, and like he was all about those two. Because he called it. He's called everything. He's like, they understand that you should use the government, coercively to get what you want. And they will establish a tradition of that they will make people get used to the government being coercive. And from there, he was like, then we seize power. And then we'll have this government that's already coercive, and people will want order, and they'll let us do whatever we want. Not kidding. I'm not kidding at all. Like, I'm amazed, but I'm not amazed anymore. The left can't sit there and watch all these streams of interviews and stuff like that. Like, no, they don't know. They weren't there to see the kill stream where he did that, and that kill stream episode's probably erased now. So, the amount of they don't know what they're talking about the right, that is everybody except for people who can really talk it. You could tell in their writing. You could tell they know what they're fucking talking about. That they just don't know. They just don't know what they're talking about anymore. It's really kind of funny. It's almost like in a certain period of time in early hip hop, that it's like people who didn't know what they were talking about. They just didn't. It's like any field of knowledge. Like people who they don't know what they're talking about. And so this idea like that, oh, you need to stay away from guys like that, Pearl. And it's like, and I'm just sitting back and I'm like, do you all know that this is Britain? Do you have any idea the kinds of people she could, if she wanted to platform somebody who would be amazingly offensive in some racial sensitivities way? This is Britain. She could have found the top-notch, I'm going to say things that are going to scorch these people's brains. But no, she tried to get somebody who was, that people were listening to, that people were like, you should interview this guy to find out. And also remember, they're both of Catholic upbringing, from what I gather. And so that's also one of these things that needs to happen, is that a lot of these the Catholics needs to work a lot of that out. Because that's always been an issue within Catholic America, is that there's the black Catholics, and there's these Catholics, and those Catholics, and that's always been a tough part for them. It also is really hard on them, on parishes staying open, parishes staying active, but it is what it is too. It's just the way things are about parishes, and the way things change. But and that there is a weakness fundamentally in this idea of the Catholic view on this, that's on these events, on that community is trying to figure it out. You're also seeing that at this point, the Groypers are trying to figure out, what is it to be Catholic? What are we to do for us, the Catholic peoples of the world? And as Americans, it's both at the same time. And and it's hard for people to get that, but it has to be both at the same time. I find it interesting too that Pearl's like, my crew wasn't really bothered by him, and he was very polite. There's this part of me like, that's the thing a lot of you are all hating. A lot of people are hating the fact that it's like yes, he would be fit in and be charismatic in a lot of settings. That's very off-putting to a lot of people, just how charismatic Fuentes is, and that you're only seeing him at his beginning of his career. That's another thing that really is getting to a lot of people. Now, there are incredibly good criticisms of him that nobody will bring up. Nobody will bring up because they really don't know that much about him. There's one person in particular a very nice Catholic boy who's here, a nice Catholic lad who's here, and he has mapped out, like, Nick has burned bridges with all of these people, and it was like pages. It was pages of names, and he's like, he in some way, shape, or form has gotten into a fight with them, insulted them, did something that like, and this is a name on the right, you know, and so just so people understand how America First, with what the Fuentes America First is becoming, you know, and yeah, so Fuentes has his own issues. And I'm just finding it interesting, though, that people are trying to figure out, like, how to get Pearl to some degree. There's a bit of the, like, okay, who this bitch is, you know, and I heard about you, I want to fight you. There's a degree to it that it comes across as that, but also there's this part of me that the last thing with that, Pearl is the last warning. The universe is giving all people one more warning. The present generation, this is it. This is the bell. This is maybe it's the DACA retard alert. I don't know, but a lot of people need to start getting this. That it's like, no. This is your last warning. Winter is here now. The layoffs are coming. Everybody's starting to... The whole world is kind of like, well, maybe the dollar's going to fall. All of us are putting much and possibly all in on that. Clack, 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 clack. And you're like, what? Really? 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 So that's so a lot of people need to start understanding that this is what you've seen from the baby boom and stuff like that. There's going to be some general change, a general level of how things are going to operate, that it's not going to be like it was when you were little kids. And so I think a lot of people just need to start getting this idea of, like, no, start getting used to things being a little not as awesome and as cool as they used to be. You know, just start getting ready for that. Especially here. It's not going to be that awesome anymore. You know, it's that there seems to be some effort at some level of power to make things extremely unawesome all the time. So and nobody likes it. So something, it's going to just, start getting used to and it's good to have a teammate. There's a lot of you young ladies out there. You're going to have these days where you're like, boy, it sure would be nice to have a teammate. It would be nice if somebody else would help me with this. Boy, oh boy. So, yeah. That's so there we go. That's why I've been thinking since watching that. Once I saw it, like, I'm like, come on, no. You that's disavow him, disavow Nick Fuentes. You disavow him now. You know, and I'm like, oh my God, come on now. You know, show some manliness. You know, show some fucking manliness. You know, ask her what she thinks. You know, what was this and that. You know, how have things been, this and that, and see what she has to say. The gold is in the response. You don't try to elicit a response. That's incredibly bad interviewing. So, I'm done. Let it.